about the cost of not having support? Like support at home, support in your communities, support in like media, support in your congregations. And when you're missing some of those structural supports, it makes you vulnerable in key ways. And so you're both sort of saying, you're both making a call to the larger community to say, when you marginalize, oppress, and don't support us, we become more vulnerable in ways that are harmful to everybody in the community. Would you argue? Like, it's not just, right? And so we all pay the price for the silences.
Well, because that's...
Oh, go ahead, Adrian. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, we did it again. Well, that's the whole thing. Yeah, is just like you want the community to look this certain way and that's very strong and unified. But if you keep like tearing down the people that don't fit your mold of this strength and this unity, then that's just like, one, you're losing precious members of your community that probably have like very valuable voices, considering that like the Black Lives Matter movement was started by Black queer women.
Talk about it.
Then on the flip side of it, you're just validating people who also hate the community, and you're giving them reasons to still like hate you because you do it to your own. So if you're not showing respect to your own, then why do they need to do so? Is like always one of the things that I have done. I mean, like, why do they need to do so? Because you should be a good human. But like, right. It's this lead by example thing of like, well, if you're doing it to yourself, then kind of thing. Sorry, Justin, I didn't mean to cut you off.
You're fine. I was just saying, as much as it is detrimental to others by us not having those resources, we become even more of an endangerment to ourselves, because that increases suicide, that increases just dangerous habits that we shouldn't have growing up as youth, especially as Black youth, let alone Black LGBTQ youth. Just in the sense of the Black family, we have to have a conversation where we have to stop hushing up our feelings. And, like when we used to cry as kids and mama would say, stop that, hush up. Or
even worse, if you keep doing that, I'm going to give you something to cry about. That was my favorite one. I was like...
Yeah, so it's like we're so used to being like, holding it in, but now it's like, no, it's too late now. We can't hold it in no more. And I'm thankful for my father. I was raised by a single father, and I'm thankful for him and also my mother. But at the same time, when I really needed to have that conversation, that talk, my father was there, which is rare in most cases of just Black LGBT people at large, especially Black queer boys. That conversation is not had. And the conversation was tough, but it was needed for both of us. And from there we grew. And I love that man. And so those are things that we have to have as a family. We have to learn to still love each other regardless of our interest of each other, because we're still family. And one thing that I said to my father is, there's so many things that you could say about me before you even can get to that, because it's just the point, I'm your son. So we have to start really embracing our family and really loving each other, because it's bigger things that are happening that even could eliminate us as people. So like, that's even one thing. I was having a conversation at the sidebar with people who are pro-choice and not. It's at the same time, you have people who aren't even for LGBTQ rights. So then, let alone if you have a child that's LGBTQ, what are you going to do? But then you're pro-choice, but then your child, you're anti, but then your child is LGBTQ. You're now crossed up in your decisions now, because now your child is something that you're so much against, but then you have another decision that you're so supportive of. So that's bigger conversations that we don't have with each other as family that we need to really have. Because if not, we're going to stay sweeping things under the rug and only talking to Big Mama, and only Big Mama know everything. And we're still going to have those conversations that don't happen until we're old enough, and we're talking in rage and frustration and mixed emotions because we didn't have these things, but we suppressed them for so long. And we're suppressed as Black people already, from the ballot to the household to the statewide of socioeconomic. So it's like, we have to figure it out. I was trying to keep it clean for a second. We have to figure it out, because we have to talk. We have to talk as people, and communication is so much key. And then once we communicate as a people and as a family, as a Black family, then civic engagement can happen. And then we get the social resources that we need. And then we can really change the narrative and take control of the narrative as it should be. stay black, just really taking control of it. Really creating that source and that strength within the Black family at large in all aspects and demographics. And that's what it really is. It's like people don't understand that Black is in all different demographics, and we only seen Black in one way for so long that now people are frustrated because we're tired of what you've seen in the media and how we've been portrayed. It's time you now seeing us in different lights, different facets, different forms. We're all not just one way. We come in different ways, and you have to accept it. We're versatile. I mean, you always want to TikTok like us and Snapchat, and you want to do all the things that's crazy like us. You want to be a part of the culture, but not support it. It doesn't make sense. So support the culture in more ways than one. Don't just be an ally. Show your solidarity. Do the work, and let us handle the Black family. But we just need you to step in. We need you to. But that's just a big conversation to us all, but then also to the Black family. That's really what needs to happen. We have to communicate as a family. We have to start opening up our doors to each other and saying, hey, we got to talk.
Yeah.
Truth hurts sometimes, but it's out of love also.
So Adrian, you were doing the amen corner, so I'm going to let you do that, and then I'll add my 2 cents.
The repressing until you're like just coming out with like anger and rage at a conversation that like should have and could have happened a long time ago is like something that is like very like personally relating to me. And it's just like, and it's frustrating because I think we're conditioned, especially like as Black men in general, Black people in general, but I think that it is unfortunately, and this is like another like intersectionally sexism thing, is that all Black people are forced to be strong from like a young age, and it's like, but Black men, that is what is presented to the world, and unfortunately it's not seen for Black women. And so, but like we're all in this equal base of having to be strong. And so like I personally am just like, I'm like the strong friend, I'm the strong person, I'm the one that can like be overworked and be fine and like keep my cool a lot until I don't. And then when I don't, it's the spillover that no one was ready for because I don't show that side of it. And that's like obviously something I'm working on. But it's this like it's from this conditioning of just we always have to like save face, and we are always like the bigger person, and we are always the one that has to stand tall, and we always are the one to be leaned on. And it's just it is quite the it's just the thing of like but then everyone's like, well, where's the rage coming from? And I was like, well if you're
like, it's big here. It's big here. Hello.
I'm like, I don't know, make it make sense. Like 1 + 1 = 2. Like, it's just like you keep pushing, you keep covering it up. So yeah, just amen to that.
Piggyback off that, shout out to Pain to Peace and her Urbana. One thing that I've learned this past week while supporting these intelligent and bravely strong Black women.
Young Black women
at that. They taught me a word, misogynoir, and that is a big word that brings in misogyny and then noir for Black women, and it brings basically the hatred of Black women, and that includes Black women and Black trans women, and how they are misogynoir in more ways than one, not just by white men but also Black men at large, and that's something that they taught me that was mind-blowing. And even in small conversations, you realize how you can be a misogynoir against Black women and Black trans women and just Black trans people at large, and you don't even realize it. So I want to give a shout out to them for teaching me that word this week. And they've been making some movements, and women been running things forever. So I mean, why not?
That's the thing.
Why not keep running it for more years to come? But I just wanted to put that word out there, misogynoir. So make sure that you're not being a misogynoir to Black women and Black trans women, especially. Let them know that you love them, you embrace them, and you support them in more ways than one, and it's okay for them not to always be strong. It's okay, because we always try to make this facade of the strong Black woman, but sometimes the strong Black woman need a break. But that's for us to support her at that moment. Don't be a misogynoir. Right. She don't need a break. Give her that break. Let her get her own break. Don't give her it to her. Let her get her own break. You just step in her place. So misogynoir, I just want to throw that out there.
Now I learned a new word, so I'm gonna put that in my vocab of the day. Like
word of the day.
I think I love learning new things. So
yes.
New word. So I have a couple of thoughts, and then I know I want to shift to solutions and strategies because I'm aware of the time. One is, you guys don't know this, but I started my workout, like my first professional job was in HIV and AIDS in 1992. So I've been doing, and it's heartbreaking that some of the conversations we were having pretty, mid-epidemic are the same ones that you're having around visibility and protection and conversations. I mean, I guess we have had progress because in the beginning of the AIDS epidemic, right, like gay men couldn't even come to some of their congregations, right? Like they were banned or had to sit in the balcony or a whole bunch of crazy things. And so I guess we've made some progress, but clearly not enough, because I'm sitting here and my heart is bleeding because you're saying some of the same things that I thought we would have overcome, right? So part one. Part two, and so maybe this is the perfect segue. I am hopeful as I listen to you and I think about intersectionality and this broader definition of love and identity, where we're not so like binary, like masculine and feminine, and we think about, again, loving people's wholeness, not just their sexual parts or their gender representation, but really like opening up our space to love like Blackness in all of its various representation. Yes. That we could do something transformative about challenging the isms, right? Like sexism, classism, racism, homophobia. Heck, like this could be a promise to do something different. And so I wondered what you would say about like how you see as solutions and strategies. I heard multiple times, like, let's have some family conversations, but what do you think we need to be doing both locally and nationally to have this broader challenge, right, of like quest for justice and equality, but definitely some justice?
So my, like, and this is kind of like, so sidebar before I get into this, I had like a series of panels that I created last year in my small town that I worked for, that theater company. And I always ended it with this because I think it's just the baseline for like all of the world's problems, but specifically our country's. We are not empathetic. We lack a very baseline, like I don't even want to say like capacity, because I think we all have the capacity of being empathetic. I just don't think we know what that switch is, because sympathy and empathy gets very mixed up a lot of the time, where you think you know what someone's feeling, so you can just like disregard it. And empathy is truly like pushing yourself to step into what would be happening, like what would you do if this was happening to you, and that would make you, oh cool, so I haven't gone through this, but I can fight through this. And the biggest thing, the biggest example I can like show is that this double standard and this juxtaposition of the two like protest movements that happen. So you think about what the response was to everyone protesting the pandemic and the shutdown and the stay-at-home orders, and then you think about the response to the Black Lives Matter protests that are happening right now. And we can talk about race, we can talk about whatever, we can talk about like the bigger, like, it's because it's Black people, but you can also just say it's because they're Black. But you can also just look at this, like, if you think about it, if all those people that were mad at this and they were like, my rights are being taken away, and this is this and this and this, and I feel this, and I feel hurt, and I feel blah, 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 blah. Do you feel all of these things? So listen to our protest, and we're saying we feel all of these things too. And you're like, oh. And I think it's just, if we started tapping into the human capacity that we do have, that is also in our nature. Empathy is in our nature as humans, foundationally. If we just all started tapping that into a little bit more, like, it would be that domino effect of like, oh, this policy can help. Oh, this march can help. Oh, this group can help. Oh, writing this process can help. Oh, writing this policy can help. Oh, making this available can help. And I think that's just where it all starts. It just starts about like tapping into that foundational empathy with everyone.
Yeah. So a real return to love.
Yeah. I
all about humanity and love. But to as it go on, like when Adrian's talking about like policies and stuff, like we know voting is very big. We've had over 11 million LGBTQ voters last year, and we already know like the outcome that can happen this year with even more voters that are registered now. But then that can make changes now because there's still 30 out of 50 states, including Illinois, that have anti-LGBTQ laws. So that can change majorly within this election, and we can change things from local government to large government at large. We also have to take into account we can eliminate voter suppression against Black people as well as against trans and non-gender conforming people because they're just as disproportionately disenfranchised and affected as Blacks when they hit the ballots to vote. So we can make those changes at the polls if we do vote, but also making sure that we're voting in interest of each other and not to annihilate another party or annihilate human rights for one another. Because one thing that I do always take to myself, and I think I mentioned to you on our previous conversation, to quote, like I said, Angelica Ross, the actress and entrepreneur and from Pose, she had a conversation with a Black woman, a Black cisgender woman who didn't identify with her wanting or with her decision of being a trans woman. And she said, well, when it comes down to the ballot, do you have my interest? Do you have my protection? If you don't have enough to agree with my decisions in life, at least have enough care and compassion to protect me at the ballot. And that's really also another thing, a way of showing empathy. If you can't protest, if you can't get out and march and use your voice, help us at the ballot, take care of us and support us at the ballot. That's another great way of using your voice that we really don't understand, because as small governments, that's where things like Stand Your Ground can pass and then become statewide national laws. And then we have a Trayvon Martin situation. It just reoccurs afterwards. You know, we have to stop those things and really pay attention to legislation and local governments at large also too.
And sorry, I just want to like the buzzword for me in this conversation I'm discovering is like human. And I feel like that's what's just been like so disheartening watching all of the responses to everything that's been happening, is just like seeing the humanity that is being lost in our country as a whole in like so many sides of people. And that's the thing. It's just like we have to get out of this idea that like changing, like it's this, because unfortunately you've gotten to this weird like blurred line of like policy is political, but policies also have to be enacted for human rights. So then people see human rights as being political when it's just being a human that's caring for another human at the end of the day. And that's just the thing of like, do you like what you were like, it's just, it comes down to the black and white version of you can either choose to support me as a human, even if you think it's like whether, because like, let's skip over the whole like being gay as a choice or being trans as a choice or being whatever. Let's skip over that. But if you are choosing to protect my life as a human, or are you choosing to let me die? Are you choosing to let me be vulnerable, unsafe, unprotected? And so you are choosing to, in fact, not care about a human life, which is taking your humanity away from you. And that's what gets people riled up, and they're like, well, no, blah, 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 I'm a good person. Like, and then that's where that all goes. But it is that black and white. You can choose to protect my life as a human, or you can choose to kill me.
Yeah,
it's really that black and white.
And I mean, trans people just lost some civil rights laws just like over the last like 4 weeks with the protesting.
Yeah, it happened where the bill just got passed where they can be discriminated against in healthcare, and they can be discriminated against in the workplace.
So we got a great question. I want to make sure I answer because this is perfect.
Absolutely.
So, Reader Connerly on Facebook said, at what age or education level do you think it's appropriate to start having the conversations around LGBTQ issues and to start elaborating conversations around intersectionality and inclusion separate from heteronormative expectations, right? So you guys get the question. When do you start having these conversations?
I would say, well, I want to separate this in two ways. First, let's have the conversation of just teaching history correctly. Let's just do that. So let's reframe the whole sense of history so that we include the good and the bad side of history. So we need to also include like Black historians and Black LGBTQ historians like Bayard Rustin, who helped Martin Luther King get to Washington, Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera, who actually popped off Stonewall and the reason why we have Pride before they whitewashed it. Audre Lorde, Toni Morrison, Angela Davis, like I said earlier, James Baldwin. We need to know about these people. It's not the sense of saying, oh, they're gay, they're lesbian. It's the point of saying that they did something in history that was impactful, and they need to be recognized for what they've done. It's not of saying, oh, this is going to make the child go gay. No, this is saying, this is Bayard Rustin, an activist for LGBTQ, for Black people. He created the Freedom Rides. He helped Martin Luther King get to Washington, and a lot of things such as Selma. Discuss who they were and their impact. So that's another thing. But then also we have to realize that we do have legislation that's not being passed by our state officials. So we need to get that together with our state officials and ask them why aren't they passing the correct bills and curriculums to get to our schools. And that includes the LGBTQ curriculum as well. But that's another conversation.
Okay.
As far as identifying authenticity of LGBTQ, the spectrum, I personally feel like in high school when they discuss sex education, they should start having those conversations more so in high school. We get a little bit of it in middle school, but it's still from the heteronormative lens of like how the baby is born. But we're past that phase now. We need to actually have the real conversations as far as like growth and our attractions and our body development. And if we're going to go different routes, how we then protect ourselves to give ourselves the best treatments possible. So I would say around high school, because that's the big conversation when you start to really find yourself and like they say that the caterpillar becomes the cocoon and the butterfly. So that's your time to become the butterfly now. So that's where I think is the best time to have those conversations and have the tough talks. But there are support groups for young trans children and young children who are non-binary. But we have to make sure we have more support groups like that for Black families, because we don't have those for our Black families. So we need to make that also available if those conversations do happen at a young age. But then we also have to realize things are exposed to us in all ways, from media to songs to YouTube to TikTok, Snapchat. So it's all about also how you monitor things and how you explain things. You can teach things like you can teach hate, or you can teach love, or you can teach understanding. Or you can teach it in a way for them where they don't need to see understanding of what goes on in the bedroom. Because that's where most of it goes to, is what people want to know what happens in the bedroom. We have to stop going in the bedroom and making our lives a fetish. It's not a fetish. This is our life. People are dying because how we are born and how we live. So that's a bigger issue that we do have to tackle with having those conversations. If we do have them early on, I would prefer for like us to have them in high school settings when we do have the sex education. Therefore,
and so I'm not going to try to disagree. I'm going to just broaden, because I think if we want normal, right? Like if we want it just included, then from the moment we start teaching kids about their bodies and love, we're doing that from the beginning. We're not waiting until it becomes a second issue. We are including conversations around there are different expressions of love, and then there are different expressions of gender, and that just gets how you grow up, right? But that also means that as adults, we got to do some of our work. Yeah. Sometimes we haven't healed our stuff and we're unclear, so we got to go do some education and get clear. But I would love for us not to fetishize it or turn it to be just about sex. Because I think if we put it in sex ed, then it becomes just about sex ed, not about identity, right? Like racial identity conversations, hopefully from the beginning. We don't wait until you're like 9 to say, kiddo, you're Black, right? Like we start having those conversations about race in the beginning. And so that's the only thing I want to say, is that I would love us to broaden it and normalize it. But I also think that we need more places and spaces for us to do our work, because we have our own internalized homophobia and heterosexism and all of that in our own sexism. And now, what's my new word?
Misogynoir.
And misogynoir, right? So we've got our work to do. And I am aware that we now have 5 minutes. So nice. I know, I told you it would go pretty quickly. So I clearly we could continue this conversation. I do hope people we will find places and spaces to continue dialogue and conversations, because this should not be it. But what are like some final thoughts that you might have? And because I want to do a little commercial about upcoming events for CU Tribe, but I want to give you a chance to have final thoughts about what you would wish for people.
I wish, just if you get nothing from this conversation, get that it really starts with love and empathy and just opening yourself and opening your mind. Because the thing, like, as easy and comfortable as me and Justin can talk about this, and even Karen like jumping on some points about this, like, this is real life, and some of this is like real trauma for us that we have had to unpack so that we can talk about it, we can fight with it and for it, and like so that doesn't happen to others that follow us, and like so we can remember that it's come before us. And so just knowing that if starting with love and empathy and that foundation, and just like being open and there for people, and there to like be able to like step for people to lean on you and step in their and for you to step in their shoes and see what's happening. I think that is how we can then so we don't have to be asking as many questions. We can like answer the questions for ourselves, that like, I'm ready to take this step because I know how I would feel as this, and I think this is how I can take the step to help.
I would say just show your support. I have a personal initiative. Homo is the new homeboy. So that's my personal initiative. I'm trying to go into a civic engagement route with working with Black and Brown queer youth, boys from ages 16 to 18. So if you're in Champaign-Urbana area, please reach out to me at Hittin Homeboy. That's HITN HOMEBOY. I'm trying to really do something big. I help the girls of Pain to Peace, and you see they're doing great things. So I want to get another group of strong people going in another demographic, and I feel like it's time now to do it. So again, check me out on all social media platforms at Hittin Homeboy, HITN HOMEBOY. That's all.
Okay, go.
Sorry, last plug. There is an all Black Lives Matter march tomorrow.
Yes.
At 11, it starts at 11. We're at Westside Park. I will be there. I know I'm speaking. I'm
speaking, and I'll be there.
Cool.
Set the atmosphere.
So we'll both be there. I hope you guys come out and march with us and rally with us and just celebrate truly all Black lives. It is specifically geared towards recognizing and elevating queer Black voices. And I'm excited that we're doing it. Sorry, that was it.
Yay! So two last plugs, because I can't say enough about how fabulous the work that you're doing, and I just really committed to seeing you continue to grow and thrive and expand your messages. So Justin knows this. We ran a program many years ago, 10 years ago, called Peer Ambassadors. Yes. And it's training, right? So this is for like folks who want to like learn the skills and tools around how to do peer support and how to do peer activism. We're doing that again this summer with a little focus on COVID education and anti-violence. So we cover a lot of anti-oppression. So if you know of somebody between the ages of 16 and 22 who want to learn, come our way, look for peer ambassadors, because again, we'll be having training over the summer. We still are offering support for people for young men, for moms, and for essential workers being anybody who still has to go to work, who might need like support and a safe place to talk about the stressors related to COVID. So we still have space and grit. And next week we start our Healing Solutions training, and we talk a lot about oppression and ending oppression. So our Healing Solutions training, it invites like lots of local people. We'll talk a lot about trauma. If you want to be equipped to be a helper and healer in this community, it is free if you are local in Champaign or Urbana. So sign up, please, because we really, right, like we can talk theoretically about this stuff all day long, but if you want to do something different, part of that is sort of being equipped. And so the training is free to equip you to use it in your organizations if you want to help heal the hurt and do it in a way that uses the best practice. I have been deeply honored to spend the time with you both, and I wish you like every good and wonderful thing. So thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much.
Appreciate it. And people, make sure you join Peer Ambassadors. I would say as a youth, a product of my environment, Peer Ambassadors made big changes in helping me understand a lot of things and perspective of being there for the community in more ways than one. So I would say make sure you join Peer Ambassadors.